Howdy, partners! Welcome to the Wild, Wild West. Now, when you think of the Wild West, what comes to mind? Dusty saloons? 10-gallon hats? Tumbleweeds rolling across the desert? You ain't wrong. But the Wild West is more than just a John Wayne movie, folks. It's a place where history comes alive. We're talking about a time when cowboys ruled the range, outlaws hid out in the hills, and the only traffic jam you'd find was a herd of cattle crossing the road. Picture this: wide-open spaces, breathtaking sunsets, and stories that are taller than a giraffe wearing platform shoes. The Wild West is a place where you can practically feel the spirit of adventure in the air. It's about as American as apple pie, only with more horses and a whole lot less sugar. So, dust off your boots and get ready to explore, because we're about to embark on a journey through the Wild, Wild West. Now let's talk history, folks. The Wild West ain't just about fancy boots and 10-gallon hats, although those are pretty darn cool. It's a place where history was made, and sometimes it was made by some pretty interesting characters. We're talking about legends like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, who faced off against the Clanton gang at the OK Corral. Then there's Billy the Kid, a notorious outlaw who could shoot the wings off a fly. Of course, we can't forget Calamity Jane, a frontierswoman who could outride, outshoot, and outcuss most cowboys. The Wild West is full of stories like these, tales of bravery, adventure, and sometimes just plain old mischief. These stories are etched into the landscape, whispered on the wind, and waiting to be discovered. So, keep your ears open and your eyes peeled, folks. You never know what piece of history you might stumble upon out here in the Wild West. Now, let's talk about the sights, folks. The Wild West is chock full of them, from the majestic Grand Canyon to the spooky ghost towns that'll give you goosebumps. You can visit old saloons where cowboys used to wet their whistles and imagine the stories these walls could tell. Ever been to Yellowstone National Park? Now, that's a sight to behold. It's got geysers shooting up in the air like they're trying to touch the sky and hot springs that'll make you feel like you're in a giant bathtub. And don't even get me started on the Grand Canyon. That thing is so big, it makes Texas look like a postage stamp. You can stand on the rim and just stare at it for hours, and you still wouldn't believe your eyes. From the rugged mountains to the vast deserts, the Wild West is a feast for the eyes. So grab your camera, folks. You're gonna need it. Section 4. City Slickers' Guide to the Wild West. Tips and Tricks. Now I know what you city slickers are thinking. Jeff, you're saying I wouldn't last 5 minutes out in the wilderness. Well, hold your horses, folks. Exploring the Wild West ain't as hard as you might think. First things first, pack your sense of adventure. Leave that fancy phone and your worries at home. Second, bring plenty of water. It gets hotter than a jalapeno out in the desert. And speaking of hot, don't forget sunscreen. You don't want to come back looking like a lobster that got lost in the desert. And lastly, remember those manners your mama taught you. Folks in the West are friendly, but they appreciate a please and thank you just like anyone else. So there you have it. A few simple tips to help you navigate the Wild West like a pro. Section 5. Go west, young man or woman. Well, folks, there you have it. A taste of the Wild, Wild West. We've talked history, we've talked legends, and we've talked about the importance of sunscreen. What are you waiting for? Get out there and explore. The Wild West is calling, and it's time to answer the call. Pack your bags, grab your boots, and get ready for an adventure you'll never forget. And hey, if you happen to see a tumbleweed rolling by, give it a little kick for me, will ya? Happy trails, partners.